Welcome, Toastmasters and non-Toastmasters who want to find out more about what Toastmasters is about. You've come to the right place. This is the District 31 Toastmasters Club Close-Up Series, a video interview series where I interview clubs from District 31. We learn about their clubs, the great things they're doing to engage their existing members, and how they're recruiting new ones. I'm your host, Christian Austin, the 2023-2024 Public Relations Manager for District 31. Today, we are going to be interviewing the club from Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Active Toastmasters Club. The club is President's Distinguished, and what that means is that the club earned 9 out of 10 points in the Distinguished Club program. Quite an achievement that not a lot of clubs are able to achieve. Let's give them a round of applause for being able to earn the President's Distinguished Award. All right, the Rhode Island Active Toastmasters are a community club. They were founded in 2010, so they are not one of the oldest clubs, but they are definitely a seasoned club. They are meeting currently in person in, guess where? Rhode Island. And at the end of the interview, we'll provide more information about where you can come to the club, join a meeting, and when they are actually meeting. For today's interview, we'll have a discussion with each of the club officers. We have questions, and I will call on the club officer to answer the question. All the other officers are free to chime in and elaborate on the question to provide additional details. I hope everyone's ready to get some great advice from Rhode Island Active Toastmasters this evening. But before we get started, I'd like each of the officers to briefly introduce themselves. Let's start with Ed. Ed, can you please tell everyone a little about yourself and your role in the club?
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. I have been a member of Toastmasters for probably off and on for about 20 years. And I've been a member, this is my 5th club, and of course the best club that I've ever been a member of. And I am the Sergeant at Arms at this club. I have served in club leadership roles in other clubs and in my prior Toastmasters history. And I've also been an area governor. I'm an area director, sorry. Been a while. So that's my background from Toastmasters.
Thank you, Ed. And we could say area governor. That was the official title before they changed it to area director. But thanks for elaborating on that. And thanks for your service in Toastmasters. Next, we'll go on to Jean, the president of Rhode Island Active Toastmasters. Jean, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yes, so I'm a longtime Toastmaster as well, over 15 years, and have been at 3 different clubs. And just like Ed, I've done area governor role a while ago, and also coached a college club. I've served in a number of the officer roles through the various years, and I originally joined Toastmasters because I used to break out in hives when I would speak in public, and I just wanted to get over the red blotches that would appear when I would speak. And it's worked wonders.
Thank you for that, Jean. And for everyone out there, a cure for breaking out in hives when you're nervous public speaking, come to Toastmasters. It'll take care of that problem for you. Yes. Similar with me, I didn't have the hives, but I wanted to duck behind the lectern so nobody could see me when I got up in public. Next, last but not least, Bethany, can you tell us a little about yourself and your role in the club?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. And last year I was public relations, but now I'm doing VP of Ed for this club for this year. And in the past, I have been an area director twice and also the Division G director. And that's where Rhode Island is located, in Division G. So I did that a few years ago and I enjoyed that. And I was also a club coach to a couple of clubs. So I'm very involved in Toastmasters, and I've been in Toastmasters for 11 years.
Thank you for that, Bethany. And for those who are not familiar with areas and divisions and club coaching, check out the Toastmasters International site or the district31.org site, and you'll see how these geographic regions are mapped out. I'll also include a link in the show notes. Well, thank you, officers, for introducing yourself today. We'll mainly today be focusing on the accomplishments of last year, but feel free to chime in on what is going on within the club this year as well. And I'll note that the titles of the officers on the screen are last year's titles as well. So we'll be talking about last year, but we can also touch on the great accomplishments that the club has achieved this year in the 2 short months in the beginning of the year already. So let's start off with the questions. I'd like to start with Jean with just an overall question about the club. My question is, how do you track club success? If through the Distinguished Club Plan or another method, can you please describe the system? So how do you track your club's success? Jean.
Thanks for that question. So we were very organized this past year in how we met as an officer team. So we had a Google Drive with all the officers had access to for file sharing. And one of the documents that we put together that I actually saw in the club officer training that the district does, one of the people in my breakout session shared an example that's just a 1-page Excel sheet that is very easy to follow for tracking club success. So I can actually show you an example of what that looks like and just talk you through it for a second. So as you can see, 6 of the points are all related to education. So we meet as an officer team every 2 months, and we will look at the district scorecard to see how we're tracking, if we think we've submitted a point, and see if it shows up the following month. And we can outline who we think is going to achieve level 1 by the end of the year, and the VP of Ed can help schedule out when that person will be speaking, so they have enough time to meet that goal. For officer training, for instance, we have a lot of officers that have been in their role or a similar role over the years, and we try and coordinate as a team to make sure we get at least 4 of the officers there. And we share our best practices with each other. But really, this spreadsheet and looking back on the dashboard allows us to make sure that we're achieving the points that we think we should. And actually, by doing this, it's really allowed our club to rally around a common goal. And as president, I've also presented what the Distinguished Club program is, because a lot of members that have joined in the last year weren't exposed to what that is. And the reaction that we got was like, oh, I didn't know, my speaking awards help the club achieve a goal and get this nice club recognition. So that helped the members be more invested in achieving levels in their path as well. Yeah, I think this also helped us discover a gap of people completing speeches and not actually closing the path out or the project out, because there's a lot of different steps. So we can talk a little bit more about that.
And Jean, You mentioned talking about the Distinguished Club program with the club. You mentioned the dashboard as well, with matching your spreadsheet up with the district dashboard. Is that something that you're encouraging members to go out and look at and say, check off that Pathways project and watch that point appear, and our club gets closer and closer to becoming a distinguished club to motivate members?
Yeah. Well, one thing we realized was we thought we submitted the point, and there's a few steps, and if one step is missed, it doesn't show up on the district scorecard. So that was just like the final step to make sure we were getting the points we expected.
Yeah, great tip for clubs to track internally where you stand in educational points, so that if it's not matching up with the district dashboard, maybe there is a step, as Jean said, that were missed. It wasn't checked off in base camp. Maybe it wasn't entered in Club Central. So a good tip in keeping your own spreadsheet, and then also just having that conversation with members about where they stand on the spreadsheet, what their goals are, and gamifying the whole process. It's the members are achieving their goals, but as you said, they didn't realize that the club is actually earning points by participating and earning points for themselves as well. So great tips, bringing that up to members. Maybe only officers, you're doing that right now amongst yourselves, and members don't know about it. Bring it up to members, let them know about it as well, and turn it into a game. Thanks for that, Jean. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Pathways education. I'd like to ask the next question of Bethany about education, and in particular, the club did a fantastic job. President's Distinguished Club, in the process, 12 pathway levels that your members have achieved. My question is, how are you encouraging members to both give pathway speeches? Some clubs, they give unassigned speeches, not checking off pathways. You've done a great job at giving pathway speeches. And then secondly, as we were talking about in the Distinguished Club program and getting points on the dashboard, completing projects in base camp to get that credit for those speeches. Bethany.
Yes, thank you, Christian, for this great question. And what Rhode Island Active Toastmasters has incorporated is when the member joins, we send them out little videos about pathways and how to navigate it, so they will know how to pick their speech, and it has a document in it as well, so that helps them as too. And there's also a video in there, so it's nicely formatted for them to figure out how to get a hold of to start with pathways. And then too, after a member gives a speech, we send them a video to remind them to complete their speech as well. And it has information on how to mark it down. So it helps them to go through the steps to get those speeches marked down for pathways.
So Bethany, those videos, are those Toastmaster International videos or YouTube videos? What are you typically sending out to members?
That as well. And Jeannie did a PowerPoint one time too, so that has helped us as well about pathways that she has sent out. So that PowerPoint, and then the video in there too. I was just looking into where it was from. Now I totally lost it.
While you're looking for the video, that is something, sending that reminder out and a video of instruction. I know myself, I hear something once and I'm not going to remember it. That reinforcement of sending the video out and reminding the member when they complete a project to follow that video instruction, follow that PowerPoint instruction, and get credit in Basecamp for it.
Correct. And there was a document too about the path and core concepts, which was helpful too. So just documents like that is helpful to send the new members, and then after we complete speeches, we send them information too to don't forget to mark your speech down so they will get the credit.
Bethany sent that document over. Can we post that in the show notes as well?
Yeah, I'll send that. I'll get that and send it over in a second.
Fantastic. And then just as far as going over pathways, is that something that the VP of Education will do when there's a new member or their mentor takes care of that? How does the club usually take care of getting members up to speed with pathways?
Yep, so it's a mentoring thing as well, and we've done really good with mentoring. But also for this year, as Vice President of Education, I got this idea from someone else. I'm going to be holding office hours to help our members to navigate the website, Basecamp, when on nights we don't meet. So I have one scheduled in September to start that up to get people in the motivation of learning more about Toastmasters, especially since we have the newer members now. I think will be good for them.
Office hours. Wow, I really like that. That has the educational tinge to it with being in school again. Sign up, go to the office hours, go get a recitation on how to use pathways. Is that a calendar system, or how do you actually set up the office hours? You just set hours and then anyone who's interested just comes and visits you? Is this a virtual setting?
It is going to be virtual, and my first one is September 5th from 7 to, September 6th from 7 to 8, and it's going to be on Zoom, so virtual.
Excellent idea. You just make time, you set it out, advertise it, and then let anyone know who wants to get more information on pathways. Maybe they're familiar with it and they just don't know something, they have a question. Open office hours, just like being in school again. Vice President of Education, how appropriate to have office hours. Thanks for sharing that, Bethany. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to say about just getting members to complete pathways projects or education in general? If not, we can move on. I want to talk about membership. And in particular, it's really important to recruit members, but if we don't retain members, we can recruit as many members as possible. If we lose more members than we recruit, the club is going to start going down in membership. So Ed, the question for you is, can you give some specific examples of how you're keeping members engaged in the club so that they do want to stick around and they continue to attend your meetings?
So Christian, what we do well and what I've always felt is that as a club, we need to provide a great experience. They're coming to our club, they're spending 2 hours at a meeting. It's got to be worth their time. And it really has to be an experience that they enjoy and they have fun. It sounds simple, but it takes a lot of energy on the part of our officers and our members to ensure that every meeting has a lot of energy and has a lot of value that we're providing to guests when they come to visit. And that's how they join and that's how they stay, because they come back and they enjoy the time that they're getting something out of it. So specifically, we're providing an opportunity for guests to come in and we can welcome them. We make them feel welcome. That's been a comment for guests over and over again at meetings is, wow, I really felt welcomed and I felt valued to be here. And we, ask their input at the beginning, ask their input at the end, talk with them at break, engage with them. And that's what builds, I think, membership for them want to join. And then also, again, for retention, the more we're involved as a group, the more we talk about our accomplishments, the more we encourage them to join pathways, as we talked about, as we have more push to get the mentors involved with their mentees. All of that provides a well-rounded experience for retaining our members.
Agreed. Recognition, right, Ed? If somebody is coming to the meeting, they feel like they're just sitting in the corner, they're not participating, nobody is talking to them, they're just not going to stay in the club because they don't feel welcome, they don't feel important. Just engaging the member, having that conversation, asking them what they think of the meeting is going to make their opinion valued, or them feeling that it's valued by the club. The other thing you mentioned was a lot of energy. I really like that concept of coming to the meeting. I see lots of energy. I see people are excited to give speeches. They like being there. Is there an example in particular of what the club does that exemplifies the energy during the meeting, or the energy that members have within the club?
It's primarily the energy of the members. I think that, members recognize that they need to be engaged. They're having fun. As members show that they're having fun, other members see that and they're pulled in, or they're drawn in, as well as guests as well. And I'll add recognition. You mentioned recognition, and being a little bit more specific there. What we've implemented, and Jean kept really ongoing for our club last year, was providing a little icebreaker cube that we provide when you give your icebreaker. So the first speech, you get a little bit of a reward, and then she was giving certificates when you complete a path. So there's a lot of recognition that members are getting, and that's a motivator for them as well.
Wow, those are two great ideas for recognition. I have not heard of an icebreaker cube before. I'm shocked that I haven't, but as you said it, I said that's so novel, but why hasn't anyone done that before? That is a great idea, that icebreaker cube. And certificates, are you printing out certificates and handing them out instead of emailing digital certificates?
Yes, because we're there in person. We're giving awards for best speaker, best table topics, best evaluator when we have participants there. And, so they we're giving them a ribbon. So there's a lot of opportunities for someone to feel like, and pat themselves on the back, say, hey, I accomplished something, I achieved something here. And that's all part of the energy, I think, that comes out in their experience.
Couldn't agree with you more, right? It's like in a sporting event where you win the award, everyone's cheering you on, you get that ribbon, you get that ice cube, you get that certificate, something to take away from the meeting and recognition for that accomplishment. Anyone else have any input they'd like to add on member retention or awards and recognition? If not, let's move on and talk about
another thing we do.
No, go ahead, Jean.
Oh, I was just going to add another way that we try and highlight our members' success is through featuring them in our club news section. So, for example, one of our members was recently featured on Fox News, and we did a little write-up, as you can see, on our club news section of our website to highlight that. And we also had her come up at the beginning of the meeting to talk about her experience. So we include it in the meeting announcements. And then we try and highlight members through other achievements, like we've had a member talk about different contest winners when we hold contests, officer elections, speaking outside the club. We have a lot of really creative icebreakers that we highlight, some of our social events that we attend with a joint local Toastmaster club. So it's a really fun way to just show some of all the great things that our members are achieving outside of the club because of their Toastmaster experience.
Wow, and Bethany, thanks for scrolling through that as Jean was talking about that. That was the perfect backdrop to reinforce the point. Looking at this webpage, and by the way, this is the free Toast. Each Toastmaster club can get a free website through free Toast if your club doesn't have that already. There is a large amount of content on this webpage. You guys have done a great job with club public relations on this page. Should have known, right? Bethany does the public relations and she's really kept up this webpage well. So We'll put at the very end, a link to how to contact the club. One of them will be the website. Go visit the website and scroll through some of those posts to read more about what Rhode Island Active Toastmasters has been doing. It sounds like there's a lot of activity, and that really intrigued to hear what the member did with interviewing with Fox News as well. Thanks for sharing that. Let's move on next, Gene. I want to ask you about recruiting. We talked about retention and talked a little about guest recognition when they come in, all part of recruiting. Want to know in particular, what are you doing to market for members? Is it find a club? Are there other sources? How do you connect with potential members after they email you or reach out? And then what is the club doing to convince them that Rhode Island Active Toastmasters is a club they want to join?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, honestly, word of mouth is our best advertising tool. People hear about Toastmasters from coworkers, from news, podcasts. We get most of our members joining just from hearing about Toastmasters from a peer or someone they respect. And we've found that it could take a long time between when that person reaches out and they actually attend the meeting. So we've had guests that came, for instance, this past July, that have been wanting to come for over a year, and they're just finally getting to the club. Maybe their schedule changed. So we've really embraced that feedback and try to continue to reach out to those prospects that have inquired about visiting the club, to remind them of our meeting coming up and send them the agenda so they know what to expect. And once the prospect visits, like Ed mentioned, we want to make sure we're putting on a really great experience for them. So that's everything from welcoming them when they come in, having them sign the guest book, giving them a name tag, telling them how we're going to involve them in the meeting, so it's not a surprise when we ask them to introduce themselves or participate in table topics or give us their feedback at the end of the meeting. We also try and introduce them to another member so they can have more people to talk to and sit next to someone who is a member to talk during the break. And we do take a 10-minute break, which is a great opportunity for some socializing in person as well, and allows us to answer some of those guests' questions. And then ultimately at the end of the meeting, we ask for their feedback, and we encourage them to continue to visit the club and make sure it's the right club for them. And we'll follow up after that meeting to just welcome them to another meeting, or if they're ready to join, if they need some more information on how to do that. And we've also found that if a guest participates in table topics, they are much more likely to join than someone who isn't as actively involved. So we offer them to participate, but they don't have to if they don't want to. So we try and have it be a no pressure environment.
It's amazing how many guests win the table topics award too. Best table topic.
Yeah, definitely.
What a way to visit the club for the first time, to walk away with a table topics award. The other things that you mentioned as well, I believe is it a 2-hour meeting that you have? So that break in between is a very novel concept that I had not encountered in Toastmasters Club, given that it's 2 hours you have time for it. Is that in between the speaking and evaluation portion? Is that typically when you'll do the break?
Right before, so we do speakers. We have the VP of Ed fill the agenda for the next meeting, which we might touch on a little bit as well. And then we have a 10-minute break. Sometimes it shortens to 5 minutes if we're crunched for time. We have snacks and water. And then after the break, we have table topics and evaluations.
It's snacks and water too. You can't go wrong with that. And then you mentioned pairing. It sounded like pairing guests up with somebody in the club as well. Does that happen at that 10-minute break?
We try and make sure they're sitting next to somebody at the beginning of the meeting and making that introduction then as well. And our members are really great at approaching guests and welcoming them, because membership is, you know, everyone's in everyone's interest. We get a lot of great energy from new members, and they really help drive the quality of the meeting and the content, keeping the content fresh.
Some novel concepts there, and then some stalwart concepts with recruiting people as well. The follow-up, you mentioned the follow-up. People that learned about the club, say a year ago, last summer, are joining the club now. Is that something that the VP of membership takes names and sends out follow-up emails or makes phone calls? How does that typically work?
Yeah, our VP of membership, which is my role this year, is I'm following up after the meeting within a few days or the next day to check in, and the guest almost always replies that day saying, you know, I'll be at the next meeting. Thanks for a great meeting. So it's a nice way to just leave the door open for them to come back to the club. Enjoyed.
Thanks for that, Jean. Going on next to meeting planning, talking about when guests come, letting them know what to expect. It's good to have something planned out ahead of time so that not only the guests, but everyone knows what to expect in the meeting. And I'd like to ask you, what are the best practices for filling meeting roles ahead of the meeting time?
Yeah, Jean mentioned that we have, right before our break, an opportunity for the VP of Education to fill our agenda for the next meeting. And that's really a key event for us to make sure that we can get that done. So we have that time reserved, and the VP of Ed will go through the agenda, talk about which roles are already filled, and encourage everyone to speak at a next meeting. So fill our speaker slots. Let's start there. Let's get a Toastmaster. Let's fill some of those key roles. And then we can fill in a few other roles as much as possible, and then follow up afterwards, because we won't get everything filled in. So that's our primary tool that we use each meeting to plan for the next meeting.
So filling the agenda for the next meeting during the meeting while you have everyone there, everyone engaged. And then if those roles are not filled all during the meeting, and that would be great if they are, who is typically in charge of asking members to check out the agenda and sign up for future meetings? Is that the Toastmaster, or who typically does that?
The VP of Education will send out the agenda prior to the meeting and highlight on the beginning of the email, we have a few roles to fill. Please sign up. So it's another way to remind everyone to do that. And then it will be the Toastmaster's job at the start of the next meeting, if they look at the agenda or they have their agenda and they have a couple roles that they need to fill before we start the meeting, fill a few more roles, or undoubtedly something comes up in someone's schedule and they're not able to make it. So we might have to fill roles unexpectedly, which happens in every Toastmasters club.
Absolutely does. And the best way to combat that is to have a process which you just named and getting those agendas filled. If you just wing it, that's when the agenda is not going to get filled and you're scrambling at the beginning of the meeting to try to get people to fill roles. They're not concentrating on what they need to do. And then the meeting is not that high energy, engaging meeting that you described before.
Yeah, it's not a great experience unless you have a well-planned agenda.
Agreed, Ed. Jean, did you want to say something?
Yeah, and just to add on what Ed was talking about, we also try and really give those new members a push too to sign up for roles they haven't tried, or try a smaller role like timer, grammarian, table topics if they're not ready to give a speech, because we want to make sure they're involved in the meeting. So we found that's been really successful. And Ed had also mentioned we have a lot of, we sometimes have slots that are open at the last minute if someone's sick or something comes up at work. So we do try and plan for the unexpected. So some of our more experienced members might be able to repeat a speech they've given, or given a speech they've given maybe at a different club, or a Toastmasters prepared speech. And we've looked at other like team building activities, or playing a video of a past contest speaker and doing like an evaluation of that speaker to give the members some exposure to outside of the club as well.
Great ideas. You don't always have those speaking slots filled, right? So what do? You may question, we only have one speaker today. How do we bring value to our members? How do we get them engaged? How do we help them learn and grow? Some great ideas there, in the sense that it doesn't always have to be a new speech that somebody's giving. It's the practice of performing the speech in front of people and giving that speech. So giving that speech that maybe you gave to a different club, as you mentioned, maybe you gave several months ago, and you're going to do it again and add different aspects to it, maybe different vocal variety, maybe different body language. And then also the Toastmasters, what some people call canned speeches that are in the manuals, of going through those and adding your own flavor to those speeches, conveying educational information to the club in the process. And then I like watching a video and evaluating. It's not the club giving the speech, but the club is giving the speech in the sense of an evaluation. And I know evaluations are challenging for a lot of members, that evaluating an outline of the speech, a cogent argument, and then delivering that as almost an impromptu speech. So evaluating a video, that is another great idea on how to fill some of those speaking slots if you need to fill them for a meeting. Thanks for sharing those, Jean. Bethany, I'd like to ask you now another meeting planning question. Can you describe special meetings or events that you've held or are planning on holding, and how do you plan and advertise for those meetings?
Yes, thank you, Christian. So last year we held a table topics contest. We've also held open houses, and we had a tech night as well last year. So those were some special events that we've had. And we also encourage members to bring our guests to the meeting, because without guests, our meetings won't run either. So it's always a good encouragement. Like, you can even have a contest with it, see who could bring the most guests. And then for this year, I'm working on having a guest evaluator come in to help us with those evaluations, like you said, because those are important for us to be giving to help our members improve in their skills. And then also having themed meetings as well. Our meetings, every meeting has a theme. I pick the theme for the meeting. So like last Monday night, it was keep moving forward. And like our next meeting is on September 11th. So I have it never forget. And the one in the beginning of July had New Year, because we're starting the brand new year. So have themes like that. And then also I advertise for the meetings as well as public relations. I would send out the press releases and use Facebook to make events on when we were meeting, so the public would know on who's on our Facebook page. So I think just those help us get our meetings out there.
That thing that you mentioned, press release, is that in a local newspaper that you're giving a press release in?
Yes, and they put it in sometimes into their paper. I see it in their bulletin.
And how would a club go about doing that?
I have a media list that I keep, so I will email the press releases out like 2 weeks in advance to my media reps.
A traditional way of advertising that I don't think a lot of clubs think about anymore, which is very powerful, reaching out to a local newspaper and getting that press release. People still read the newspaper, and they're going to see your club in the newspaper having a welcome open house for them to come try out your club. So think about doing that press release. Also, Bethany, you mentioned a tech night. That was interesting. What was the tech night theme?
On like using PowerPoint, getting up there, because we can, where we meet, we have the capability to use PowerPoint. So just having people give PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah,
So-
if I add to that, we're blessed, I think, with a great venue. Being at the New England Institute of Technology, we have media technology in every room that we meet in. We meet in one room primarily, but sometimes we get moved around. And so we go through that exercise of, all right, well, here's what what it is to get the projector started and the screen down. So, and get your computer plugged in. So we walk through that process, and then we have other people use the technology, the speakers, so that they can demonstrate how it works.
Yes,
That is
and I'm just going to chime in. We also had a red carpet meeting, like to recognize members back last year. I thought that was
and a couple picnics too over the last years.
I have to ask, are any of your meetings not special meetings? There's so many special meetings here. It sounds like if I come to a meeting, there's going to be a special event going on, which is not a bad thing. That's actually a very good thing.
We try and keep it as fun as possible.
And like last year too, we did a team building where Jeannie set up like an escape room for us. That was fun to do, to get everyone together.
When you say a team building with an escape room, was this at a different location and or it was still a Toastmasters meeting, or how did this
Still
work?
a Toastmasters meeting as well.
Oh.
Yeah, I had two different experiences, and we just did it for 10 minutes. And one group was kind of the new member theme. So I had like a calendar with our meeting dates, and like I had a name tag with the name written in white crayon, and you had to like do the black light and figure out the name of the guest. And then the other group had visual aids, and I used my son's like magic kit to hide some of the clues, and they had to find the USB drive and through the computer.
Wow. Just think, your meetings, this is almost like, sounds to me like almost like a party. This is what we're talking about with high energy, exciting meetings here. An escape room meeting. This is something I've never heard of before. What you just described to me, I am thinking about doing this in my club now. So I might have to reach out to Eugene and get some more information on how to run that meeting.
You'll have to hire her son too.
Yeah. Can use
I'll
this
send
as,
you the video is on our club news page. I'll send you the video as well.
fantastic. That's got to be a fun video. Well, we've gotten to the point now. I'd love to continue asking more questions because I've gotten great value out of this, and I'm sure our audience has as well. But we've come to the time where we have to conclude at some point. And my final question to you is, why should somebody come and visit your club? If that hasn't been answered implicitly already, explicitly, why should somebody come visit your club?
Yeah, we want you to come visit Rhode Island Active Toastmasters for a high energy, fun, engaging meeting. We have great technology in the meeting room. As you heard, you can practice for a conference speech. You could use the microphone for a panel discussion. There's a lot of possibilities with our club. We meet the first and third Monday of the month at Newington Tech in East Greenwich. And you'll find some more information in the video comments.
Sure will, Jean. Thanks for mentioning where you meet, where people can find you to join some of these fantastic meetings and have a lot of fun. I will post at the end of this video and down in the show notes how you can contact the club and the meeting information that Jean just cited. What I got out of this interview, some bullet points. As Jean said, a high energy club where your experience is valued. They'll let you know exactly how you'll be part of the meeting and get you involved in the meeting early. Who knows, if you come join the club, you might walk away with a table topics award, your first meeting, and watch a member give their icebreaker, walking away with an ice cube. You're sure to participate in a fun meeting, and who knows, the next meeting you participate in as a guest, there may be an escape room theme. So go visit Rhode Island Active Toastmasters. And to all of the officers joining me today, thank you so much for interviewing, sharing your knowledge with District 31 and Toastmasters. And I wish you the best Toastmaster year ever coming up.